Hi, and welcome to my new video related to Bitcoin education. This video is very important and I think it's one of the most important I have ever done on Bitcoin because it's about a topic that is firstly considered important and very misunderstood. The topic is Bitcoin and energy consumption. Let's look firstly which are the references. Firstly, the reference book is called The Fiat Standard, the Debt Slavery Alternative to Human Civilization, and it is the second book of Saifedean Amos. He wrote also the more famous book, The Bitcoin Standard, and I recommend to read both. First, start with the Bitcoin Standard and then with the Fiat Standard. As you can see here, the second recommendation is about the articles, and there are 12 different articles. I also recommend to read them. Each of them has very interesting material and concept, and they are all useful in order to understand how Bitcoin mining works. And there are also, you see, five, six different examples on real life, let's say. It's not just the concept. And I will use all of them in order to explain the concept. Then also videos, I cannot upload show here, but you can also watch from the title. And also this video, they're showing how Bitcoin mining works and how the society is taking advantage thanks to this new technology. Let's see the agenda. So we will start discussing about which is the abstract definition and common misconceptions. Then will be opinion of the experts. Then third will be Bitcoin mining council in Q1 2022. We will then go on with the concept of energy. We will see the example of Isle Royale. Then we discuss about cheap energy and the contribution to fight climate change. We will discuss about a very interesting concept called Bitcoin as a pioneer species, then real examples of Bitcoin mining, conclusion, and general Bitcoin value proposition. To make this presentation, I use a lot of material from different sources, as you said, and I purposely decided to make this long video because Bitcoin mining is very complex. In order to be completely understood, it requires times. So if you think that is too long, and because you want to learn it in shorter time or very fast, then I'm sorry, but Bitcoin is not for you because Bitcoin is very complex and it needs time in order to be understood. And this is just one of the part of Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin mining. There is also Bitcoin monetary proposition, the whole blockchain, Austrian economics. There are a lot of topics, and each of them is complex and requires time. So one of the reasons why many people are not interested in Bitcoin because they want to know things in 5 minutes. If they don't convince them, then it's not for them. It's not true. But the reality is, it's a new technology. It's very complex, and it takes time, data, information to process all of the information and then to learn. So in case, as I said, in case a person think, okay, if it is not in 10 minutes, then I don't care, then I'm sorry, but Bitcoin mining is not for you, and Bitcoin is not for you. I would say a pity because in few years you will know why. Let's start with the abstract. Bitcoin mining industry is more commonly misunderstood. The common narrative and the average person think that Bitcoin mining consumes too much energy and that Bitcoin mining is bad for the environment. And this I heard also from people who have a basic understanding of the monetary proposition of Bitcoin and a basic understanding of the blockchain. I heard also experts discuss about blockchain or discuss about monetary, but they say yes, but it consumes too much energy, and then there is this sustainability topic that is a problem. It is not a problem. This is not a problem. We will see here why in the details. In fact, the reality is very different. In reality, Bitcoin mining is a breakthrough in the energy industry, and we will see why. To understand it, a person should know firstly how Bitcoin mining and also how blockchains work. Two complex topics and almost no one bothered to study these topics. Even a better understanding or a complete understanding of Bitcoin mining industry, if the energy makes sense or not to use, it will be also needed a knowledge on the monetary history. Because if you know the monetary history, whatever energy Bitcoin, we will see how much it use, it will be for sure worth. And for me, very important will be the financial world will take few years to understand Bitcoin mining for two reasons. First is a new technology. Every new technology, it's hard to understand at the beginning. It's understood from curious people, not from the average person. Secondly, as I said, it's very complex and is very counterintuitive. And I also believe that there are many misconceptions. There are 15 or 20. Some they can be debunked in few minutes, but some require time. And the one who need less time, for example, Bitcoin has not intrinsic value. In 5 minutes, it can be debunked. Just lack of knowledge. And this will take less time to be debunked in the society, in the financial world. But this one, considering that is very complex, I assume and I think it will take time. Let's move with the definition. So the Bitcoin mining is the process of verifying a new transaction to the Bitcoin digital currency system, as well as the process by which new Bitcoin enter into circulation. In particular, every 10 minutes, a new block is created and miners spend energy in order to find a hash that is lower than the target. In this presentation, I will not go into deep on how Bitcoin mining works. I discuss about in the video the blockchain. So in case you want to know more about Bitcoin mining, how exactly work, watch that video, please. And I think you should watch it before watching this video so you will understand better. The key concept is the higher the difficulty adjustment it is, the more energy is needed. Important to highlight, and this also and also the less the difficulty adjustment the less energy is needed. Very important topic. Energy used is not related to amount of transaction. And this is another misconception. People say that the amount of energy used, they divide by the transactions, and then why Bitcoin costs X power energy per transaction. But this is completely wrong association, because Bitcoin mining is used to validate the block that contain all the transaction. Is independently from how many transactions. You can have 100 X transaction. If the energy difficulty adjustment is the same, then they will take the same energy. So my recommendation is if you hear someone just pointing out the energy used per transaction, this person has absolutely no clue about Bitcoin mining. No clue. It's not I understood a bit. No clue. The two biggest misconceptions are Bitcoin mining consumes too much energy, as I said, and Bitcoin mining is bad for the environment. The key reason, as I said in the abstract, is the general lack of knowledge and lack of education on the topic. Without spending hours and hours to understand how the energy industry works and how Bitcoin mining works, the two statements seem to be true because they are intuitive, but they are not true. Because superficially, yes, you say both statements seems to be true. And other statements like Bitcoin is consuming more energy than a small country, yeah, are true, but are misleading. They are said in a way that Bitcoin consumes too much energy, but it is not. Let's move on. Let's discuss about the expert. Many say yes, but the expert they think that X, Y, Z. Are the experts always right? Let's look what the expert said in 2017. And we are talking about the World Economic Forum and Newsweek, Tech and Science. So two very important newspaper or periodical. And here you can see, so in these two, in the first, in 2000, they said both in 2017. The first one, World Economic Forum, an author said that in 2020, Bitcoin will consume more power than the world does today. Again, similar concept. An article in Tech and Science of Newsweek, they said Bitcoin mining on track to consume all the world energy by 2020. How it went in 2021? Bitcoin mining consumed less than 0.1% or 0.12% about the total energy consumption. So that means that statements from World Economic Forum and from the article in Tech Science means that the authors, as I have both of the authors that were expert, have deep lab of education in Bitcoin. And it's not that they missed something. To say like that, it means again, they absolutely had no clue about Bitcoin mining, because also with the basic knowledge, they would never said this. So it means a total lack of education that sometimes happen also to the expert. Let's see for the next 6 slides the results showed by the Bitcoin Mining Council. It is a council that represents 50% of the global Bitcoin mining network. There are many companies who mine Bitcoin, and this is a council that represents around 50%, so half of the Bitcoin mining network. Let's then see some data. Every quarter they provide an update, and one member of the council is Michael Saylor, very known in the Bitcoin world. At first, we see that the total energy consumed worldwide is around 155 terawatt hour, while Bitcoin consuming only 155,000 terawatt hour, while Bitcoin is consuming 247 terawatt hour, equal to 0.16% of the total energy consumption. We are talking about yearly consumption. So Bitcoin consuming 0.16% of the total energy consumption. People can debate more it's too much, it's too not, but important also to know the data. Around 0.1, 0.15, 0.16 percent of the total energy consumption. But it's not only this. Secondly, there are also CO2 emission. We say, moving to the CO2 emissions, we notice that the yearly emission generated globally are 34.8 BMT, while Bitcoin CO2 emission are 0.03 BMT, representing 0.085% of the total CO2 emission. So Bitcoin mining represents less than 0.1%, less than 0.1% of the total CO2 emissions. Third, comparing Bitcoin mining sustainability with the energy sustainability at country level, we can see that Bitcoin mining is much more sustainable than any other country. In fact, Bitcoin mining is at more than 50%, 58.4. Also, the member of Bitcoin Mining Council are even higher, 64.6%. And then Germany is the country, the most sustainable country with 48.5%, EU 43.5%, United States 31.4%, and then every other country is less than 25%. And if you exclude also Iran, Canada, South Korea, all the other countries are less than 20%. The world in general is 21.7%. So Bitcoin mining is 58.4%, the world is 21.7%. Bitcoin mining is much more sustainable than any country and the average in the world. Let's move on comparing Bitcoin mining with other industries. We notice that energy consumption is much lower than any other industry, including gold mining, that is 571 terawatt hour, and is comparable to computer games that has 214 terawatt hour. We see residential buildings as 26,000, road freight vehicles 8,000. So Bitcoin mining is consuming not as much as energy as many other industries. Now let's see how Bitcoin mining improved. Year over year in Q1 2022, we see the electricity consumption decrease at 25%. The hash rate increased by 23%, and mining efficiency increased 63%, and sustainable electricity increased 59%. And efficiency, I say it again, the efficiency increased 63%. An efficiency of 63% is something abnormal in any other industry. In oil and gas, automotive, an improve of 63% will be huge. And this is the key reason why, nonetheless, the hash rate increased, so the difficulty adjustment increased, the fleet electricity consumption decreased, so we consume less energy than the year before. Last part of the Bitcoin Mining Council is that the provision for the next 8 years is expected that a 6x improvement in mining efficiency and a 4x improvement in reducing energy consumption, meaning a tremendous improvement in energy efficiency. This is expecting in the next 8 years. This is from the Bitcoin Mining Council Q1 2022. I hope these are the basic also to understand where is the energy, where is the world, where are the industry, where is Bitcoin in terms of total consumption of energy, in terms of percentage versus the world, in terms of sustainability. Now let's move with the interesting concept of energy. And a common misconception about energy is that it is scarce and it is limited. In the popular imagination, the Earth has a limited supply of energy that humans consume whenever they eat or move anything. In fact, for mainstream academia, energy is zero-sum game, whereby an individual consuming energy in the world is taking away from others. In reality, the total amount of energy resources available is practically infinite. It's not really infinite mathematically, but practically. For example, hourly solar energy that hit our planet is more energy than the entire human race consume in 1 year. And the rivers that run every hour of every day also contain more energy than the global energy consumption. It's also 1 hour of solar energy hitting our planet is more energy that we consume in 1 year. The real limitation of the energy is how much time humans dedicate towards channeling this energy resources from place where it is abundant to place where it is needed. All this is very related to Bitcoin consume too much energy. It's a person who say this, it's also misleading because it sounds like if I use to mine Bitcoin, then we don't have electricity for heating or for hospital or for industry. And this is completely not true. The first important concept is that energy is not scarce, energy is not limited. The real limitation is how much time humans dedicate towards channeling these energy resources from place where it is abundant to place where it is needed. I think it's better to have said this twice. Let's move now the Bitcoin mining breakthrough. Why I think that is a breakthrough of the energy industry technology. The energy cost is coming from transportation costs, also from transportation costs, with energy that needs to be transported where it is needed at the right time and at the right intensity. It's not just you have to transform, but you have to channel this energy, you have to transport. Now let's see the biggest concept of this presentation. The Bitcoin mining breakthrough is that it does not require power to be transported. It can buy the power anywhere it is available. All what the miners need are an internet connection and supply of energy. This is the only technology that it doesn't require power to be transported. It can buy the power anywhere it is available. Till 2008, there was no technology that can use energy wherever it is available. And this is a huge breakthrough. And the implications are only beginning to be understood. Implication mostly with wasted energy, we will see excess or surplus, and stranded energy. This is a real breakthrough. As I said, it will take the financial world some years in order to understand it. Now, looking for cheap energy. The consequence of this breakthrough is that the Bitcoin miners will inevitably consume cheap, wasted, and stranded electricity, energy with zero opportunity cost. In fact, due to the difficulty adjustment, mining is consistently profitable only for miners who use electricity much cheaper than um, for the world that the majority used for in the world at the normal electricity price. As I said, in order to understand this, it is why no, not so many people understand this, is that a knowledge of blockchain is required. And really few people has an understanding of how the blockchain works and how the difficulty adjustment. That's why I recommend to watch also, again, to watch my video, the blockchain, or to read before a book related to blockchain. But let's look also the next steps in order to understand why. The global average price of electricity is $0.14, so 14 cents per kilowatt hour. And the miners are competing. What the miners are doing are competing to create blocks that are using electricity at different price. If I use the energy here in Munich where I'm living, it costs, let's say, similar to 0.14. Someone who is in the middle of nowhere and is using stranded or wasted energy, is paying less for this energy. And with more competition, difficulty adjustment increase, making unprofitable and therefore out of business the miners who buy electricity at the current average price. Everyone who buy the price at the industry level or a heating or for the same energy used in the hospital will go out of business because they cannot compete with the miners who spend much less. And this is also another very important topic is Bitcoin mining and difficulty adjustment is pushing the miners to find energy at low cost, meaning wasted energy or stranded energy. Absolutely not the energy used in cities. In fact, as I said, they will use inevitably cheap, wasted and stranded energy, energy with zero opportunity cost that generally is between 4 and 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Before we go more deep into the energy wasted energy and stranded energy, let's see a real example of difficult adjustment. Isla Royale. Isla Royale is an island in Texas, and it is an island where wolves and moose are among the only animals living in the island. The moose is the only prey available for the wolf, and the wolf is the only predator concerning the moose. That means there are only all these two are dependent each other. One is the prey, and one is the predator. The simplicity and isolation of this ecosystem makes it the perfect laboratory for studying ecology. The population of moose and wolves on the island are constantly in flux. When the moose, let's say that we have moose population is large relative to the wolves, we have more moose than wolves. Even the weakest, slowest, and oldest wolves get fed. But soon, the oversized wolf population will decimate the source of food, the moose. So now, with little food for the wolves, the weakest will die from starvation, which reduces pressure on the moose population. Eventually, a temporary equilibrium is reached. As it turns out, ecology comes with a built-in difficulty adjustment. So the population is always in a temporary equilibrium or looking for equilibrium, and the only equilibrium is temporary because then there will be or too many wolves or too many moose. And this also another note, this temporary equilibrium is the same that Austrian economics are highlighting on price related to supply demand, and it is the same related to the difficulty adjustment. Just discussing a bit about the Austrian economics. For Keynes economy, they say that there should be central planning that equilibrium exists. For Austrian economics in monetary system, equilibrium, there is never equilibrium. It's always supply and demand who are looking for the equilibrium as the amount of population for moose and for wolves. The same, so as I said, the same dynamic plays out in the Bitcoin miner ecosystem. So imagine the wolves and moose, it will be the same in the Bitcoin miner ecosystem. In fact, when Bitcoin mining price is high relative to the total hash rate, even the slowest, oldest generation miners are profitable, and like the wolves who get fed. The good times don't last, as eventually the difficulty adjusts upward and the least efficient miner must turn off. So far is low, the difficulty adjustment is low, there will be many miners and everyone can mine some part of Bitcoin. But when the difficulty adjustment competition is higher, difficulty adjustment goes up, there will be less competition, and those who are paying the most, so will be the weakest wolf, the less profitable miners are out of business. We'll take some water. As I said, it will be a long video. On the other side, in case the price goes down, there will be some miners who are not profitable anymore, and they go out of business. It will cause the hash rate to go down and to allow the remaining miners to be profitable and the new miners to enter the competition. Just like moose and wolves on Isla Royale, the miner ecosystem, modulated by the difficulty adjustment, is constantly seeking equilibrium, where marginal cost to mine a block equals marginal revenue. At maturity, will be in some years from now, mining Bitcoin should be a relative boring, low margin, and a business similar to the energy as an energy utility today. Sorry. If the wolf doesn't find a meal, it dies. Let's see, this is one of the consequences. There are no magic potions to revive the wolves. It's necessary for the weakest individuals to be killed to ensure the rest of the population has enough food to survive. In fact, if a wizard did revive all the fallen wolves, they will eventually eat all the food and lead their own species to extinctions. And we see this in natural balance arise when central bankers bail out zombie companies. Sure, you save the company, like you save the wolves, but you put the entire economy at risk. Rather, we must let the market settle and recycle capital. Reviving a wolf and bail out zombies companies are example of cheating nature. Each time is each time nature is cheated, long-term systemic risk build in the system, increasing the risk of catastrophe or extinction. Alternative, there are no bailouts in Bitcoin. Bitcoins obeys the rule of natures. And that's also another very important breakthrough. The net effect is accepting also short-term price volatility in exchange for long-term systemic stability. If the miners are not profitable, there is no bailout. The miners are out of business. And this allows the system uh, to survive and to develop. Okay, now next chapter, and it will be one, I think, probably the most important. It will be about this cheap energy that I told about wasted energy and stranded energy. Let's discuss about the first case. First is energy, existing energy assets with excess capacity. So excess of energy. Energy grids, yeah, upstream oil and gas, nuclear, seasonal energy source like hydro and intermittent energy, and like solar and an intermittent energy source like solar and wind. Bitcoin mining is the only technology that they can use, as I said, excess of energy because it's a series of uncorrelated competition, each of them 10 minutes long. Where Bitcoin mining uses energy from gas that otherwise will be floated in the atmosphere, Bitcoin mining is also contributing to reduce to CO2 emissions. We will see this about later on. Let's go more into deep. In fact, what Bitcoin mining can do, it can balance out the fluctuating energy supply from renewables. Once connected to the grid, miners can balance out the fluctuating energy supply. They are responsible consumers of energy, mining bitcoins during times of low demand and serving the grid during times of peak demand. This ensures other electricity customers do not suffer rolling blackouts. Utilities call this a controlled load resource, and miners are a fast-responding, large-scale resource. Bitcoin mining is the only technology that can do this. For example, for solar energy is mostly channeled during the day, but is used in the evening for illumination, so Bitcoin miners can use the excess of energy during the daytime. Secondly, energy needed for heating. Energy must be available during the warmest day of the year. During the coldest date for the year, Bitcoin can use the extra supply during the warm days because the energy is not needed for heating. Continuing, we can say that each individual computation is statistically independent of the last one, meaning that the process of mining can be stopped at any moment without a loss of progress. As I said before, Bitcoin mining is every different is consisting of many different competition, each of them 10 minutes long. So you can also mine for 2 hours, then nothing, then another for 2 hours, and then you can start, and you don't need to have stable energy like for a house, for a hospital, or for industry. This, in fact, allows miners to deal down their usage on short notice if necessary. In fact, grid operators love this, as they reckon with increasingly unstable grid due to an influx of wind and solar. In fact, normally, grid operators have to keep fast-reacting natural gas power plants in reserve in order to backstop a reliable wind and solar. But with flexible load in the form of Bitcoin mining, these operators have a new tool. They can simply ask miners to reduce the consumption to offset a loss of supply. And miners gladly do within seconds. They ask if they need energy, they say, miners, please Shut down your operation, miners in few seconds, they shut down the operation. Today, in fact, the vast majority of Bitcoin miners in North America participate in this demand response program. Bitcoin mining can use excess of energy. In Bitcoin mining is helping stabilize the grid, making infrastructure more profitable and allowing the company being able to expand and to hire new employees. So it's also good for the society. And this is all renewable energy. Another very even more radical concept. So here before we said that Bitcoin mining is very sustainable till now, and then we said that it's using excess of energy, so energy that will not any way be used for any other technology or industry. Now we go one step further, and this I think most of the environments don't know about this. Bitcoin mining can prevent climate change. Yes, you heard well, can also prevent climate change. People think, but it's not bad for the environment. No, Bitcoin mining can prevent climate change. And this is complex, but let's deep dive on this in order to understand it completely. In fact, Bitcoin is the only technology that's available, practical, and scalable when it comes to tackling the world's most deadly greenhouse gas of 2022, methane. Methane. Methane escapes into the air unburned is 30 times more warming than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. That's important. If you burn methane, is 30 times more harming the environment than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. In fact, very important nuance with methane emissions is the methane in the form of natural gas that is burned when firing up a gas either or stove is carbon positive because burning it release carbon dioxide that would otherwise not have escaped into the atmosphere. So when you burn methane, you will have carbon dioxide, but you don't have methane anymore. But releasing methane in the atmosphere is 30 times more warming than carbon dioxide. So ideal will be to burn all the methane in order to harm as less as possible the environment. In fact, as I said, both methane that would have been otherwise escaped into the atmosphere gets burned in carbon negative because the carbon dioxide it produces, however harmful, is still a quantum less harmful than having methane escape into the atmosphere. So it's much better to have dioxide than methane into atmosphere. And how you can decrease methane and create dioxide is to burn methane. If we can combust enough of this escaping methane in time, we might be able to avoid climate disaster. Oil and gas industry, oil and gas industry hasn't solved this problem because existing solutions such as flaring that gas don't completely burn the methane. But the methane in the atmosphere from human activity comes chiefly from three sources: the oil and gas industry, landfills, and animal agriculture. Oil fields emit methane when natural gas is released during extractions. Because oil fields are typically many miles from a gas pipeline or electricity grid, there is no economical way to use that gas. So it's typically get wasted by burning it, flaring it. So they burn, but it's a waste because there is nothing, no technology that close enough in order to use this method. The problem is flaring is not 100% efficient. Only 92% of it get turned into carbon dioxide. The rest goes into the atmosphere unburned, and it is responsible for 1.7% of the greenhouse emissions. And also 70% of landfills in the US vent their methane gas directly into the atmosphere. And this is very bad, so it's much worse to release methane in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. It is logistically and economically very hard to dispose of or use wasted methane from the oil and gas industry or landfills because it will be a waste. There is still 2008, there was no technology able to use it. However, Bitcoin mining unique features make it the world's only candidate that can immediately start slashing methane emissions from both places, from landfills and from oil and gas industry. Let's start with landfills. In March 2022, US regulators passed a bill that required landfill operators to start capturing their gas. This system involves a combination of pipes and a flaring system. However, according to one source in the waste management sector who wished to remain unnamed, some states have said that they will defy this ruling. So there could be that some states will defy this ruling. Other recent what estimate is a 1 million cost of having to install a flare stack. So it's a big cost and there is no advantage, a part of the economic, a part of the environmental advantage, but no economical advantage. So a part of Bitcoin. Even if every US landfill started floating in 10 years, unlikely, 8% of all methane will still go into atmosphere unburned. Instead, playing 1 million, instead playing paying 1 million, the flare stack can be turned into an asset for the landfill operators at the same time as slashing methane emissions. So instead to be an expense, it can be an asset. What happened in this scenario is that a unit is installed on site. The safety removes toxic emission from landfill gas pre-combustion. Next, the resulting methane gas is burned, and the generator converts this heat energy into electrical energy. So thanks to pre-combustion, safety removes the toxic emission from landfill gas. Then this heat energy is a generator converts this heat energy into electrical energy, which is used by an on-site Bitcoin mining mobile unit. Because Bitcoin mining units can operate on site, they need no gas pipeline and can be up and running within weeks of a landfill operator signing a contract. So there's also a breakthrough in the industry. Finally, also the landfill and oil and gas operators, they have a technology that allow them to use the excess of gas. Let's move on. Is the last two slides related to this topic. The Bitcoin mining in fact company secures cheap electricity. It's an excess, so for sure it will cost less. They will give for a low cost because anyhow they have to burn, so it's wasted energy. The landfill owner turns an environmental, regulatory, and economic liability, methane, that was a liability, into an asset, earning money per kilowatt of electricity produced. Most importantly, because that gas is cleanly combusted, the emissions from each landfill are reduced. This solution can be repeated and scaled easily. For the oil and gas industry, the process is even simple as there is no need for the toxic gas purification process pre-combustion. Until methane collection and sequestration technology become practical, combusting methane into 30 times less warming gas called carbon dioxide is the best option we have to avoid the devastating climate impact of methane leaching into the atmosphere. Last slide on this. In fact, because, as I said, Bitcoin mining only requires an internet connection and not the millions of dollars per mile built out of gas pipelines. They don't have to pay million to build a pipeline. It is currently the only technology that can combust this wasted methane in a way that can scale up fast enough to meet our most pressing methane reduction target. Many people immediately think, yeah, there are many other things we could do with this method. Theoretically, this is true, but the problem is that unless you want to collocate next to an oil field and landfill, this energy needs to transport at 2 million per mile or pylons and 5 million per mile for gas pipelines. Yeah, you can use another way this gas, but then you have to spend millions in order to use it. And this is the extract of an article where Bitcoin can be used to fight climate change. You find in my reference article. I think that's one of the best article I have ever read on the topic. Now let's move the second part: stranded and untapped energy. Now we see that Bitcoin is using excess of energy or surplus of energy, and actually we saw that is also contributing to fight climate change. Second case are the untapped energy assets that have been yet harnessed, called also stranded energy. Examples are geothermal energy, from volcanoes, mountains with rivers, sunny regions, and windy region, far away from any town. In fact, as I said, to be profitable, energy must be transported for max 500 kilometers. So far, till 2008, every energy source, regardless of how profitable can be, is used profitable just to extract the energy, but not profitable for the transportation. Could be profitable every source of energy if there is a town, there is an industry, or let's say there is civilization 500 kilometers from that source. Bitcoin mining also here is the only technology that avoid transportation costs. That means that Bitcoin mining can channel energy around the globe, energy that otherwise would be not possible to channel. One situation was the wasted or excess or surplus energy. The second case, all the stranded energy. The world is full of energy, source of energy. Till 2008, we need civilization maximum at 500 kilometers. Now we don't need anymore. In fact, in this way, with stranded energy, and this is also another breakthrough. With Bitcoin excess of energy, Bitcoin stranded energy, Bitcoin mining is adding energy to the total energy consumption, and this is pure 100% renewable. In fact, we see there is a direct correlation between GDP per capita and energy consumption per capita. We see that the country higher is the energy consumption per capita, higher is the GDP. So higher the population is higher level of lifestyle. And we see that Bitcoin mining is then contributing to the flourishing of the society thanks to adding energy. So it's adding energy per capita, is contributing to the flourishing of the society. Every time humanity did a step forward with agriculture revolution, industrial revolution, the total energy consumed always increased. We always saw an amount of energy, amount of channel energy. Also coming back, it's not energy is limited, it's how much energy we can channel. Related on the stranded energy, there is also another article, very interesting, called Bitcoin mining is a pioneer species. And I put it here because it's very interesting and is a correlation between the Bitcoin mining ecosystem and the natural ecosystem. Let's see now how Bitcoin acts as a pioneer species. In the natural ecosystem, pioneer species first colonize a new hostile niche. Fungi, lichens, and primitive plants are good examples. They take the most risk and fail often. Yet they play a crucial role. Without pioneer species, complex ecosystem could never get off the ground. If you have an hostile place, there will be not complex climax or the normal trees going there. There will be the pioneer species that are fungi, lichens, and primitive plants. They use photosynthesis in order to sustain themselves. Intermediate, eventually pioneer species then are, once the pioneer species, they create a better environment, less hostile, they are displaced by intermediate species which are more suitable to the changes in the environment made by the pioneer species. So the pioneer species, like the lichens, create an environment less hostile and more friendly to normal plant. And once the environment is suitable to normal plant, then the normal plant will displace the pioneer species. And there's a very interesting process in the natural ecosystem. Intermediate species include the grasses, shrubs, and shade-intolerant trees. This process of ecological succession continues for hundreds of years until the ecosystem becomes a climate community. Climate community are relatively anti-fragile. It will be a complete. There will be the whole all of the trees, all natures, and like a forest, and are relatively anti-fragile, support large tree, and can sustain a rich diversity of predators and prey. And then there will be also animals. So these are the steps. The ecosystem starts with pioneer species, then intermediary species, and then climate community. Um, let's say that the role of Bitcoin mining as a pioneer species. So in fact, the Bitcoin mining, it incentivizes investors to bootstrap energy sources that aren't currently being harnessed. In the early stage, Bitcoin mining, real estate Bitcoin miners serve as a captive demand, reducing the risk and the time to value of the energy asset. Over time, this leads to an increase of energy production and a decrease in cost. So Bitcoin miners, they look for cheap energy. They go in places where no one else went, and they colonize this place as the pioneer species. Over time, then this lead to an increase in energy production and decrease in cost. So it's becoming to the intermediate. Abundant energy also attract higher value use case for energy, such as industry, the intermediate species of this example. Industry is then creating jobs, and then people move nearby, who subsequently need houses. Then people move, industry create jobs, people move, and then you need also houses and basic service. And before long, you have a little boom town, similar to what we saw in the gold rush of the in the middle of the 19th centuries, or on the Bakken oil field in North Dakota today. This boomtown is now an intermediate community. You had then pioneer species, Bitcoin, create, channel some energy, create increase of energy, energy at low cost, create also small industry, industry ask like demand of people, people moving there, asking for basic service. You have an intermediate community. And the new industrial consumers eventually eventually outcompete Bitcoin miners for energy supply. They are willing to pay more. So the ecosystem is thriving due to energy abundance and wealthy shareholders from mining Bitcoin. The boomtown is now available to outcompete nearby ecosystem who have less energy and wealth. So this create a feed. So the boomtown is now outcompete nearby ecosystem who have less energy and wealth. This create positive feedback loop leading to more jobs, more people, and more abundance. Considering it's like a snowball, and then it will create a more complex culture. Rational companies and politicians will now defend Bitcoin because it's the crucial to the success of their city, because Bitcoin was the reason why the city was created. But in fact, eventually this former energy desert, before it was energy desert, energy was available and no one was channeling it, will become a climax community. And this climax community will owe their success to a subtle shift in incentives created by Bitcoin proof of work mechanism. Only thanks to the Bitcoin difficulty adjustment, a magic idea in the blockchain, can create this process. What happens then to the displaced Bitcoin miners, pioneer species? A few Bitcoin miners stay around and continue to soaking up any excess of energy capacity because they cannot use anymore the energy they will use at low cost, because the energy company can sell the energy at higher price because there are industries, there are people, there are hospital, and they are willing to pay more. And so Bitcoin miners, there will be only the old generation, and they will look for excess of energy. So there will be the lowest, the cheapest energy in that ecosystem. And also there will be the older generation because they spend less energy, so less lower opportunity cost. They can handle intermittent load and serve as a background player, stabilizing the new grid and ensuring maximal efficiency of all energy produced. Most Bitcoin miners, however, are displaced by consumers who are willing to pay a higher price for energy, as I said. Just like the pioneer plants, they traverse to new areas by releasing airborne seeds carried by the wind and winds. So they create a citadel, they create a complex climax, then they are displaced and they will colonize another place, because there will be always places where there is stranded energy not possible to channel unless you use Bitcoin technology. Eventually, this citadel seed find a suitable niche, energy desert, and once again that serve as a pioneer species in the new location, bootstrapping the entire process again, and then we start again. Then there will be intermediate species and then climax. And the benefit of genetic wisdom passed down from previous generation. Over time, the selective pressure weed out of the weakest miners and select for those who can manage capital well and form symbiosis with energy producer best. And this is also the magic thing in the magic idea. Individual miners are self-interest. They are not looking so much to benefit they are also doing this, but they are also looking for them self-interest. but also is their self-interest that is helping the community, because it's their self-interest that is pushing them to find stranded energy, and then they will create an intermediate climax, and then a complex climax. They will be displaced and they will look for a new place where energy is stranded. That's the miner ecosystem as a whole is effectively competing for who can benefit humanity the most. And as I said, it's the only technology that will create this new intermediate a complex climax. Okay, after this big deep dive on cheap energy and Bitcoin mining as pioneer species, let's have a look of Bitcoin mining in the USA. In fact, Bitcoin mining encouraged American entrepreneurs to do what they've always done, take advantage of the opportunity to build profitable business. And US is ahead of everyone on that. Yet, it is becoming clear that the kind of business Bitcoin entrepreneurs are creating are novel within our economy, and considering that Bitcoin mining is looking for cheap energy, the installation will be not in Silicon Valley or in New York, but in rural areas. Why? Because New York and Silicon Valley is very expensive. So they are looking, you can see in the map, mostly is in the Middle West and in the Middle East. There is no Bitcoin mining in California. In fact, Bitcoin mining is revitalizing American towns and incentivize the use of formerly wasted energy. We had countries like sorry, Georgia, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, and West Virginia and Wisconsin. Generally, not the countries, not the states that are the most famous, but in fact, they lost millions since the start of the new millennium, millions of jobs. Bitcoin is uniquely poised to address this problem. Its industry thrives in exactly the communities domestic manufacturers abandoned long ago. Bitcoin mining industry requires also expertise in construction and electrical engineering, as well as finance, sales, and marketing. So there are different kind of job, not just miners or computer science or electricity. We have a great example of a revitalization of a town, of a revitalization that Bitcoin mining can bring, come from the small town of Rockdale in Texas. In fact, Rockdale was hit hard when one of the nation's top aluminum smelters, the town's largest employer, shut down. Today, the story could be more different. This former manufacturing town and just the abundant energy Bitcoin mining facilities needed. Attracted by this infrastructure, Riot Blockchain, a publicly traded company, was inspired to build a brand new 300 megawatt mining facility in the town. 200 construction workers were dedicated to the revival, um, and as of 2021, Riot is producing 500 Bitcoin per month, about 222 million at this facility. Emboldened by this success, Riot is expanding further, and it is building more facility in Rockdale and creating even more local jobs as its business grow. So you see that Bitcoin mining is creating jobs, and jobs where mostly is needed in rural areas, not in the most urban area. Why? Because the energy there costs too much. Okay, now we are going towards the last part of the presentation. We will then go on now with examples and then conclusion, and then I will have just few words on Bitcoin in general, not just Bitcoin mining, but Bitcoin value proposition. First example, first of many, Virunga National Park in Democratic Republic of Congo. There is a new Bitcoin mining facility in this park, all running off hydropower, all renewable, turning water flow into an increasing valuable asset that can teleport anywhere on Earth in minutes and that can be devalued or censored. And this is already happening. Second, volcano in El Salvador. President Bukele begins 100% renewable volcano Bitcoin mining in El Salvador. El Salvador is also the place where Bitcoin is legal tender, but this is another topic. It's related to the monetary value proposition of Bitcoin. Let's move with Laos. The government of Laos gave the go-ahead for 6 companies to start mining cryptocurrency in the country as part of pilot program. And this is all they will use only excess of energy. Again, 100% renewable. Ethiopia, renewed hope. How Bitcoin and green energy can save Ethiopia economy. Why they can save it? Because 90% of their power come from hydro and much of it is stranded. Bitcoin miners serve as a revenue source for utility until infrastructure to distribute energy can catch up. So Bitcoin is absolutely a renewed hope for Ethiopia. Kenya, then we see Kenya, largest producer of electricity, intends to deliver excess geothermal energy to Bitcoin Mars. This is already is happening. Geothermal energy, in fact, in the region is estimated to be above 14,000 megawatt, with 10,000 megawatt located along the Rift Valley circuit. In fact, only over 80% of the Kenyan's power is renewable energy. Also here, excess geothermal energy. Bitcoin will add to the total energy, making Kenya more profitable and better position as is now, because it can channel more energy. Then we see Exxon in North Dakota. So far we saw mostly in third world country. It was in El Salvador and in Africa. Now let's see in US. ExxonMobil is mining Bitcoin in North Dakota as part of its plan to slash emissions. In fact, it has been working with Denver-based Crosso Energy System to mine Bitcoin in North Dakota for over a year, according to people with knowledge on the project. The pilot program, which is operating in the Bakken region, launched in late January 2021 and had begun expanding by July. Uh, ConocoPhillips is pursuing similar work in the same area. The problem Exxon and Conoco are addressing has existed for years. What happens when drillers accidentally hit a natural gas formation? Unlike oil, which can be tracked out of a remote destination, gas delivery requires a pipeline, also here. If a drilling site is close to a pipeline, producer can sell it right away. But if the pipe is full or if the gas is 25 miles away, the drillers often burn it off. That's why you typically see flame rising from the oil fields. In addition to the environmental hazards, drillers are also burning cash. Enter Bitcoin mining, which only requires an internet connection and can be done from anywhere. And because miners primarily variable cost is energy, they are incentivized to find the cheapest source of power, as said many times. So is written also in this article. This is just a great way to bring that demand to the wasted energy and solve 2 problems at once, said Carly Canvas, president of Crusoe, with whose bankers include Valor Equity Partners, one of Tesla's largest investors. Solve the energy appetite of Bitcoin and solve the stranded energy. Largest problem for the energy industry. So they solve 2 problems at once. Less environment hazard and more profitable. Next example, there are 9 or 10 in total. We see that Crusoe, a Bitcoin mining company, is deploying equipment in Muscat, Oman, to capture flared gas. And so also to capture flare gas also decrease the environment hazard and the emission of CO2. The Oman Investment Authority in the Middle East was part of an April funding round that saw Cruz raising 300 million for this project. And the MENA region accounts for 38% of the world's flared gases. Example number 8. So on the top of the speaking with the mornings with Maria on Wednesday, Hong Fang, CEO of crypto exchange OKCoin, weighted in arguing that there is always a misconception, as I always say, that Bitcoin is bad and it pertains to using energy. She said, Bitcoin's use of energy is for the best possible benefit, which is securing a global monetary network, and that is the best possible way of using energy for us. Feng also argued that Bitcoin is also good for developing new green energy for us because on the way the network is designed. Because how the network is designed. It is very elastic. It helps the surplus of green energy for the energy producer. And also the way the network is designed is incentivize the use of green energy because there is a reduction of subsidy every 4 years. So that's like magic. Last example, crypto miners help ERCOT keep renewable energy operational, say interim CEO. And this is a video. The most important things of this video is that cryptocurrency is a great opportunity for us. What is say in the video? As we get more renewable energy, in particular wind, and wind is operating at night, we have an excess of wind, and we need to find a home for it. Otherwise, we just have to turn the wind down. And this is such a great resource. Crypto, meaning Bitcoin, has found a way to take excess of wind in off-peak periods. When we get to peak time, the miners turn off the computers. So it is a win-win situation. So these were the 9 example of 9 real example in the world, and there are many others, and there will be more and more with the years when Bitcoin mining industry will be understood, better understood. So now we go to the conclusions of this long video. We see now that is a bit more than 1 hour. First, which are the conclusions? First, or which are the takeaway you should take from this video? Bitcoin is not consuming the world's energy. Bitcoin is providing a powerful market incentive for energy producers worldwide to increase the production of cheap and renewable energy. So again, increase the production of energy, not taking from somewhere else. Bitcoin mining is adding energy to the total world production of energy. Every time the society did a step forward in our civilization, the total energy produced increased. Bitcoin makes the development of cheap and reliable source of electricity very rewarding. Bitcoin is the only technology that can use excess, surplus, and stranded energy. Bitcoin is using the energy from the excess and therefore contributing to reduce CO2 emissions, as we have seen with the methane case. And also, why is doing this? Because thanks to difficulty adjustment, also Bitcoin could grow 100 times, still not consuming more energy that humanity has wasted, because it will grow consuming primarily wasted energy, because it has zero opportunity cost and very few potential buyers other than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin miners will always look for cheap energy, so for wasted, excess, surplus, or stranded energy. Said that in one sentence, Bitcoin mining is a breakthrough in the energy industry, but still most of the people didn't understand this yet. Now we move with the last part of my presentation. Let's put in aside Bitcoin mining industry and discuss about Bitcoin in general. From all what I've learned in the last months, I can see, for me, Bitcoin is a technological, a financial leap forward for humanity. Why? Because there are 3 different breakthroughs in once. First is monetary proposition is the most important. With its absolute scarcity and these properties that make it a perfect asset to be sellable across time, space, and scale, Bitcoin is the best form of money we have ever had. A breakthrough in the monetary history. And this is the most important. It's the best form of money that we have ever had. And we will also have ever had. Second, technological proposition. With the Bitcoin blockchain, I made a video on this a few days ago, we can finally send value digitally without the need of central authority. A technological breakthrough. Third, energy proposition. As we discussed in the last hour, Bitcoin mining is the only technology that can make use of excess of energy, surplus of energy, and stranded energy. A breakthrough in the energy industry. Then the question is, as I said also at the beginning, but let's repeat it. Why then is not so well recognized worldwide? Because it's very hard to fully understand it. It is a new technology that involves many different subjects: finance, economics, investing, monetary history, human psychology, philosophical politics, history, game theory, complex math, technology, computer science, and energy industry. At least 100 hours of study are required to appreciate it, and many more to fully understand it. Barely no one did this effort because it looks like everyone is busy with something else. And for me, this decade will be remembered in the next decades as the decade of Bitcoin. So people don't are busy with something else instead of studying Bitcoin, but fair enough. But then they miss the biggest engineering technological revolution of human history. And without the necessary knowledge, the average person is stuck with the misleading statements in the common narrative. And you can see here all the example. I hear everything, like it's too late to buy, it's used by criminals, it can be banned, it's too expensive, it consumes too much energy, as we said, it doesn't yield periodic earnings, it has a very short history. They list all the reason why they don't trust Bitcoin. And all of this will be debunked if they put enough effort in order to understand it. With time, one by one, they will all be debunked because the reality is different from the actual misconception. But this new technology is very complex, and then it means that it will take time. But Bitcoiners like me are patient, and we are patiently waiting that the world understand Bitcoin. We are not in a hurry. And in fact, if a person says, should I invest in Bitcoin? I never recommend investing in Bitcoin unless few hundred euro, because it's very important that you have some skin in the game. If you invest 300 or 400 euro with the thought that it can go to zero, even if it goes to zero, your life continue the same. So it will be no big risk. So to put few hundred euros maybe, and then to spend time in learning about Bitcoin. You need to learn in order to be convinced about Bitcoin, because also Bitcoin is volatile. That's true. And when it crashes, if you many people feel the pain, if they feel the pain, it means that they are overexposed to their conviction, and that conviction is always direct correlation with the education. So I always say spend time in learning about Bitcoin, educate yourself on Bitcoin. And as said, educating yourself about Bitcoin means that you need to learn finance, economics, investing, history, game theory, complex math, technology, computer science, not everything in the deep, but you need to acquire all this knowledge. Without this knowledge, it's like you don't have an intellectual framework in your brain who would allow you to understand Bitcoin. So you need to spend time in order to build this intellectual framework. And then once you appreciate, you start to understand Bitcoin, then it will be natural to invest in Bitcoin. So obviously it's not a financial advice. My only recommendation is spend as much time as possible. For sure, first is always health, family, work, and some hobbies for sure. But spend, they say, the excess of time that you have in order to learn about Bitcoin. And Bitcoiners think that it's the best assets in the long term. We will see in this decade. I am very curious about how the development it will be. Then thanks for having watched this long video, and see you in one of the next one. Bye.